It's your friend Áine, and this is the Abyssal Realm Farming Guide. What precisely is the Abyssal Realm? It's a more exclusive version of the tower where you have keys to get in and you have to have some bound ingots on hand to reset it. That drives me a little crazy. However, it's bound ingots and I can get those just about anywhere and they give you them in the tower. These are the rules that you need specifically to clear and get all the items possible without having to climb to high impossible floors and dying over and over. Every time you die, it restarts you at that same floor and then you keep fighting until you clear it, or you choose to skip a floor and come back. That's really how this functions. I tested these rules. I'm going to show you the test, and I'm going to tell you now that all of this is correct. Before we get too far into this, you need to have this guide expanded on your device or whatever you're using to view this with, because it will make your life a lot easier, considering that there will be huge chunks of text later on. Here are the rewards that he's telling you about. You're going to want these rewards, especially Uriel for the cooldown. I like Uriel. I'm never going to have to equip this card, neither are you. Get Raja, even for the stats. You should also get the artifacts, even if it's just for the stats. You don't have to put a ton into it. Please get these to help yourself in the future. You may not be using them, but it will help you so much more than just sitting there and doing nothing. Here's my test with my Yulan. I'm on my Yulan and I'm answering the questions the right way the first time so I don't have to pay the merchant my amethysts as I go. It's nice not to pay the merchant so much, especially since here I am farming mobs and bosses specifically to make sure that I can possibly spawn an instance where I can get Numas or I can get items that would be typically harder to get. There are items that you can take out of the dungeon, and there's some that won't, like the amethyst stays in, but the other two items there, the engraves, will go out with you. If you run into one of these artifacts and you own it, it'll change the outcome and give you shards. They mention this in the guide, especially with like pieces that we use to upgrade the pack. Despite all the times you have to reset, it's nice to be able to have items that you can use to upgrade yourself as you go. When running, I tested to see how randomized this was. It is fully randomized per account. All you need to know is how to clear it. This is the next part. This letter, you leave it alone. You will always leave it alone until you get to the 5th instance, then you can pick it up. Pester the dragon, say, I want artifact shards, and then go from there. You'll be fighting some bosses that have difficult mechanics, which is why I like insta-kill over insta-clear. You're going to use a lot of these items that are handed to you to help you clear floors in the tower. I avoid the wings, and I typically tend to use insta-kill on bosses that have tough mechanics. Moving on through the portals, you're going to keep running into a lot more mobs, but however, it does change as you progress, and the alternation of all these mobs and instances will help you get more items to clear, more items for yourself, and improve your character. Here's my second instance of the letter, let it go. I don't get to the full instances of 5 with the letter on this run. That's going to require a lot more climbing, which we'll do once we have all of the artifacts built and the cards maxed with the SP. Here is a mob. I captured this guy. I captured the wood element specifically to get Raja Shard. I don't remember this one. I don't remember how to complete this one, but it is in the guide. I remembered how to complete this one, so I got it correct because I've done it so many times. A lot of this will become muscle memory for you, especially if you want to get all the items and the artifacts and keep going. Here's the merchant. Because I answered the questions right, I have purple items instead of blue. This is what I'm following whenever I get a guard spawn or a boss spawn. You're paying attention to this will pay off so much for you. Wipeout is kill, captive is catch, free is let go. The gambling game, you're playing rock, paper, scissors for shards. The shards will help you finish your cards and make the SP. And this is the second part of the guide where I'm going to mention that you need to have your screen in full screen, especially since you're going to be paying attention to this and I'm going to be giving notes. There are some instances that I have not seen on here yet, but this is all the artifacts and how to get them. You need to bother the lady in green for the Samsara item. You have to. It is the only way to get it. And if you answer it wrong, or if it mentions like there's a lady in blue, there's no lady in blue. It's only green. That's because of the translation errors. When they switch between countries, languages, and cultures, they tend to switch things around to make it more relevant. However, in this case, the name might have been a little bit more helpful, but thankfully, this guide has been translated to where it can be usable, and that's a good thing. I like to get Aya's flute over the Garuda's cloak. which is Jumong's cloak. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. I do not speak Chinese. While you won't be able to pick what the merchant has in the stall, I'll give you the advice of buy anything but the potions because the potions come from instances, and why waste your amethyst when you can just go get them from the instances. Here is the second part. It's going to tell you about the connoisseur. The connoisseur is the sweet and salty guy. You go and you spam sweet for the cloak, salty for the chi buff, which is Aya's flute. I like Aya's flute, so I get it first. It's going to mention that there are several items that will pop up here that will work, like the phoenix egg. I went through that one. I went through the girl who loves gambling. A lot of these instances haven't been entirely documented yet. However, there are some that I ran into that I could not make sense of. There's one that says, let him rest. I didn't find the information for it when I did my run on my main recently, but you are supposed to pick let him rest on there, especially if it's a guy that's working so much and working very hard. You let him rest and you show compassion, you get everything. There are some items in here that won't make sense, especially the two crystals. You pick the red one. For some reason, they like red more than blue. That's going to be the biggest helper for you. Pick red. There are rules for the Wuxing elements. You have to follow the Wuxing elements on one of these pages just because it's preference for you. You can either fight mobs or get items. Depends on how you feel, but knowing your Wuxing elements will help. I'm going to give you a bit of a sidebar here. If you're mean to the animals, which, by the way, are so cute when you see them on the screen, I'm going to judge you. Everyone's going to silently judge you in a corner somewhere because that's toxic. This is another page that will help you and that you'll be able to use it to up your game. There's an instance with the time check-in where it requires you to talk about the past instead of the future, and then you have to gamble. It's so random. You'll get help from there. Because some of these are a little bit nutty. More than nutty, they're fruity. I mean, we also have an occultist and we launch a rocket off into the air on an island at one point, so you never know what's coming. Take your time and read this over, because if you have this sitting in your head, it'll help you, especially due to how many times you'll be running this dungeon. It's going to help you a lot. At least it's helped me a lot. So for this part, the first section, you need to know your Wuxing elements, especially if you want to get a specific outcome. I suggest looking up an image in order to be able to complete that section. And when you move down to the Chinese kanji emblems, symbols, it's going to tell you the rules of playing rock, paper, scissors. As previously noted in the smaller section, 5 shards only, and then you're max. But if you win one time, you get 1 shard, and it goes up per win. But if you don't win at all, you get nothing. That's what's so tricky about it. I don't like that, but this is so RNG. Completely RNG at this point. And to drive home a further, far more terrible point, you're going to be gambling with your universal units and your runestone rolls. I don't even want to say that 3 times fast. Let's pass on. Why are we gambling with these? That's the demanded material. It will demand certain materials and you'll be forced to use them anyways. If you exit out and then you come back with the material, you can pass. If you don't want to gamble them at all, you don't have to. I'm not going to force you. No one is going to force you here. However, you will need to allocate your resources correctly and able to clear this. I'm just going to say I don't want to reset 5,000 times, and neither should you. This is the last page, and I don't have much to say about the last page. There are some instances in this guide, especially on the last page, that I'd like to see. I want to see that strange jellyfish specifically because I've never encountered something like that on this game, and I want to know how they get it to function or how they set that interaction up. That sounds interesting in general. Then again, I'm always so curious, and maybe it's just me. I want to tell you that when I uncover more information about this, I will make some updates and I'll post another video. Right now, this is the best piece of information I can give you. Arm yourselves and happy farming.